Life is all about relationships. Lovers, family, body, or money. How satisfied you are can be completely explained by how you relate to things around you. This is Sophie Jaffe, and together with my husband, Dr. Adi Jaffe, we are here to explore and teach you how to maximize your relationships and achieve a happier life. Let's get ignited.
Hello and welcome to this episode of the Ignited Podcast. I'm Adi Jaffe.
And I'm Sophie Jaffe.
And I don't even know how excited I am about this episode.
Yeah.
This is like groundbreaking, I feel like.
This is huge. We're so excited, so thrilled, so honored.
Honored, absolutely.
That this couple shared their experience with us. So basically what happened is this couple reached out to us, the wife.
We can say their first names because we use them in the thing, Lacy.
So Lacy reached out to me and emailed me with her story. She heard our story, or Darrell did? I think she did. One of them heard our podcast and heard our Going Deep episode where we discussed our really personal experiences over the last decade in our personal relationship. And she really resonated, and she's going through some really rough patches with her now husband, Darrell. And she just kind of confided in me, and I asked her if she would be willing. Adi and I have been talking about this for a while, maybe having couples on our podcast and doing a session with them.
Yeah.
To just try and give them some love, try and give them some support, but also offer their experience to all of you so that maybe there's a lesson in there for you. Maybe there's something that resonates, some way that this couple could offer some sort of nugget of their experience, and then maybe some hope, something to you.
And look, and I think the thing is, a lot of people reach out to us to work with us. Mm-hmm. And A, we don't always have the time. B, it's expensive.
Yeah.
So that's why we have the relationship workshop online that's really cheap and available. But when they ask for this, obviously we want to do it because we want to help people, but
we can't help everyone and we can't help everyone in this way. So we really wanted to we're not sure how often we're going to do this, maybe every 6 weeks, maybe once every 2 months. But we want to do this somewhat more regularly if you guys like it. So please give us feedback, give us a review, send us a DM, let us know how you like this episode so we know that you want more of this in the future. Basically, we just did a session with them.
We literally just did a session with them, and we're calling these Getting Personal because you're going to see it doesn't get any more personal than this. This is a couple struggling at the beginning of the session to just know what to do. How
to connect, how to get better, how to see the light. And we offer some guidance. And and what works for them might not work for you. What worked for Adi and I might not work for you, but we're here to just offer what we do that helps us dig ourselves out of the trenches, dig ourselves out of this really scary place where you feel so alone. I've been there. Adi's been there. This couple is there now. And by the end of the session, they felt some hope.
Yeah, I mean, they were actually saying that they're excited. So we want to save the journey for you all, because I really want you to hear them through this journey. It just starts like any other first session starts, and it ends really, really well. And I love that. And so I want to give that to you. I do want to let you kind of think of a relationship tip that will walk you into this a little bit. And that is to really take a moment and examine your early life experiences and consider how what you went through in life may have contributed to the way that you view relationships in general. And then when you do that, look at which of those ideas, which of those biases, which of those lenses do you want to keep, and which ones do you want to change? And that's going to become really relevant in the conversation here today. But I really want you to think of that for yourself. And it's
also just crazy how much we bring into our next relationships. Like the relationship that you're mirrored, or the relationship that you're given by your parents, the relationship you have, like all of that affects you in ways that you might not even be conscious of. So really digging in and seeing like, wow, what was I shown? What do I want to keep going in this relationship? And what do I want to erase and reset?
And I think you're going to see how meaningful and relevant that is in this discussion. So, look, this is a long one. It's about an hour and 15 minutes, and I want to let you guys dive into it. Of course, I want to remind you, and we'll have the links again here in the show notes, to our relationship workshop. Super easy to access. So if you like what you hear in this and you want to kind of know, okay, well, how do I do this for me and my partner? Or how do I prepare myself for better relationships in the future? We'll have the link for you to go online 24/7, 365. It's available. We're really excited about the future of doing these sorts of sessions. We already have another one lined up for about a month and a half down the line. And we really, like Sophie said, really want to hear from you in terms of, how do you like this? Do you like being able to just see another couple going through the process so that you can say, oh, here are the nuggets that I can take for myself? Really, really excited to give that to you.
Yay. Can't wait for you to listen to this.
All right. Get ready. We'll see you on the other side.
This episode of the Ignited podcast is brought to you by Philosophy Superfoods. The Philosophy offers cleanses and other nutritional products that are unlike any of the other supplements and detoxification programs on the market. Why? Because they actually nourish the body with whole, live, nutrient-rich foods instead of depriving you and leaving you hungry. Have you ever tried a cleanse only to find out that you can't make it through a whole day because you're starving? Ever try a superfood shake that made you nauseous because it was so disgusting you'd rather not eat? The Philosophy fixed all that with a simple set of offerings that load up your body with nutrients while actually tasting good. Makes sense, right? Each of the Philosophy superfood and protein blends is vegan, raw, gluten-free, and has absolutely no filler ingredients. With over 15,000 satisfied customers, including some of the world's biggest celebrities like George Clooney, Gerard Butler, Lea Michele, and over 10 years of experience, this is the best stuff you can get. To buy some or find out more info, go to our website, thephilosophy.com.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the second part, the conversation component of this Ignited episode. Sophie and I are really, really excited because we have a new feature today. We're calling this episode a Getting Personal episode. And so we actually have a couple. We have Lacy and Darrell here today, and you can hear their beautiful daughter in the background. And Lacy and Darrell are here to talk about their own struggles. So you've heard our story, you've heard our Going Deep episode, but this is another couple struggles because not everybody's the same. The stories are not always the same, and yet a lot of people are having a hard time in their relationships. And so we thought we would kind of let you look into what is it like when we sit down with a couple and actually talk about the struggles that they're going through and how to get better. So welcome, guys.
Hi.
How are you?
Yeah, we're good. We're good. We're recording from Israel, so if anybody is listening in noise, it's because we're sitting on a beautiful little porch outside in Israel. And what's your daughter's name?
Isla.
And Isla is gonna be narrating the meeting.
She's very vocal.
Giving a little report of how she feels things are going.
Yeah.
You guys wrote to us and you wanted to see if there's anything that we could do to kind of work together and help out. And I think what would be really useful to get started with is if you just kind of tell us what got you to this place. Why are we here talking?
Well, we're here essentially because my husband had an affair about, 5-6 months ago it happened. I just found out about it a month ago-ish. And the truth kind of came out slowly. It didn't all come out at once. And I'm kind of still in that like shock. I actually reached out to Sophie right after I found out the first little bit of it. And I didn't know the full truth at that time. So, I've learned
sharing a little bit. So you said the truth came out in stages. What did you find out first?
Well, initially, she had just found out that we just hung out or just like met up. Like there were no kind of like physical
a girl from his work
interaction. And then eventually she found out, that something physical actually did happen. So
like more than once.
Yeah.
So it went from a one-time encounter after that, sex, and then it went from that to being 4 different occasions while he was at work.
Okay.
So he actually left work to go meet this person 4 different times.
Okay. And if you don't mind, we're gonna dive in, right, so we can understand exactly what was going on. When you said found out, what happened? So you heard something. How did you even hear? How did you find out about the first piece of it?
Someone actually messaged me out of nowhere. It was an older woman, which he told me it was her mom. Later, he told me that, but she kind of reached out and she was like, you know, I feel like you deserve to know that your wonderful husband is having an affair at work, and you know he's walking around with a smile, and you're being deceived, and you deserve to know. And you know, at first I was like, this can't be real. That has to be like fake. So I kind of started like digging. You know, you start digging and you just can't stop, and you're like, okay, wait. Maybe it does add up a little bit, you know, like maybe my gut was kind of trying to tell me the whole time. And I really truly trusted him.
Yeah. You didn't want to believe it.
Right. I got to a place where I really trusted him, and now it's like just sabotage, you know, kind of like it sabotages things.
Yeah.
We can relate to that.
Yeah, I'd like, I guess, taking advantage of that. And I guess that's why I felt it like, so it was just, I don't know, it was too easy. But it was definitely something that's completely messed everything up, like where we were as far as her gaining the trust she had. You know, I know now that we're back to square one. So
yeah, I don't know if that's significant, but he is younger than me. Like, and this is my second marriage. I've been married before. It was like abusive, and not a physically abusive. It was just like emotionally all the time. And I have been in a physically abusive relationship. It's like I'm easily, I attract those. I feel like those kinds of people. He's never been abusive to me. But when I first met him, you know, he was young and he was doing his own thing. I kind of wanted something to be there with him, but I was like, I don't feel like he's old enough yet, and I can't expect him to like commit to me. I've got 2 kids. I'm divorced. You know, I'm like 4 years older than him, which is not much, but I guess at the time when we met, it was kind of a bigger difference because I was like, you were like 20.
I mean, I had just got out of a relationship too, so you know, it was just like just hanging out, you know, having fun. That was like.
He was kind of a player when I met him. Like, that was just his status. That's kind of what he was. He was young. But things kind of changed, and we started growing together. Actually, how things got better was I just decided I was going to do my own thing, and I met someone else. And then I ended up telling him about it, and it kind of bothered him, like more than he thought it would, I think.
For sure.
So he was like, you know, I kind of want to like date you. I like really want to do this. And I'm like, yeah, I do too. I've been wanting to do this. So I ended up choosing this relationship. And then we actually kind of fell in love, and like everything was great. And then we got pregnant. Like bam. And that was, you know, number 3 for me and number 1 for him. But we did miscarry that baby. And that was 17 weeks we miscarried. And that brought us together like a lot, because he was really, really here for me. Like, I don't know, you know, you go through such a depression. You've already got so many hormones going, and like the loss is it's just like they're there, then they're gone. And I went through a really bad depressive state, and he was just right there with me. So that kind of made me feel like, okay, he's the person I want to be with. You know, that really brought us together. And he was like committed to me. Like, we were great. We ended up getting pregnant again with Rowan, and we were excited about it. That was a healthy pregnancy. He was our rainbow through the storm.
It was out of the blue, but you know it.
Yeah,
we were excited, especially when I found out it was a boy. So.
Right. He proposed to me, and this was after we had Rowan. He proposed to me, and then we got married that next summer. So we've been married for 2 years, but we've been together for 6 years.
Okay.
So, yeah, like right after we get married, you know, all this stuff happens, and I'm like, it really came out of nowhere. I don't know.
So I mean, first of all, Lacy, you've been through a lot. It sounds like, in general, even
Yeah.
Definitely.
And one of the things that I'm hearing right off the bat is, to some extent, maybe there was some. Didn't sound like you had tribulations in your marriage and in your relationship. It was more like you guys didn't know if you're going to get committed or not. And then, Darrell, you really stepped up and showed up. And then even with the miscarriage, you showed up even more. And so you were able to let your guard down a little bit, Lacy, and trust that this is the real deal and that
Right.
it carry through.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you were able to hold on to that trust for these first couple of years, and nothing led on, or nothing really broke that trust until a few months ago when you first found out about this.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Definitely.
If you don't mind, I want to ask a question about something that you said, which was, maybe my gut was right all along.
Right.
I'm wondering if you don't mind speaking for a moment about, what would you say? I know it's all in hindsight now, right? Because you found out that something had been going on. And so sometimes we interpret things in the past now through this new lens that I know something that I didn't know before. What were some of the things that maybe either weren't going right or weren't clicking before you found
made her
out
think?
to look at now?
Probably just, I felt distant from him a little bit. I felt like he was depressed. I do feel like he's had some depression issues, like with his job. He's not very happy with his job. And he kind of feels like he has to go. He has to provide. So
What do you do for work, Dale?
Warehouse.
he works in a warehouse.
Yeah.
And it's really like, it's hard on him, and like physically and emotionally, like, and I get that. And I know that actually, like the affair situation, this girl worked there with him, and she was kind of like blowing his head up like for months, just like he was going into a place of like complete negativity, but I guess she was like positive there. So I feel like, and like I said, like I knew he was depressed. I've disconnected from him. We've always had a great sex life. I don't think that was necessarily, because I was actually shocked. I was like, how? Because we've been fine as far as like our sexual life goes, and so that definitely wasn't it. But I just felt disconnected, and there were times I would be like, I wonder, like, I haven't checked his, Facebook or his whatever in so long. I'm like, wonder if I need to, and I did like a couple times, and I didn't find anything.
Yeah.
Because we don't keep passwords from each other or anything. We don't have passwords on our phones. Like, we never have had to do that.
Yeah.
So, and this person,
I would only talk to this person like at work.
Yeah, she texted him at work only, and like she tried to keep it to where I wouldn't find it and everything. So,
yeah.
But I felt disconnected from him.
Okay,
Definitely.
so disconnect, and you felt some kind of mood changes in
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And does the timing line up? Like,
It does.
okay.
Yeah.
So you feel
that's kind of why. Yeah, it was the same amount of time, and I'm just like, and I even like catch myself now just in the process of trying to get past it. I'll like look back on pictures that I had taken at that time, maybe of him or us, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, like, it just brings back that moment.
Yeah.
And I'm even, how could I have not known, or just, I drive myself crazy. Like, I'm going insane.
Can't blame yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. I call it the crazy making. Like, you just make yourself crazy over and over and over again, and like it's this habitual psycho like side to yourself, where you like you try and like connect the dots.
Yeah.
And make sense of it, but you can't make sense of it. That's the only thing. It's like, it's not about you at all. And that was a really big lesson for me, because I kept trying to figure out like, oh, maybe I'm not sexual enough, or maybe I, just to connect the dots and make sense of madness. But that's his madness. That's not yours. Like, that was Adie's madness. It doesn't belong to me. And regardless if there was something I was doing that was wrong or to make this happen, it's his responsibility as my partner to handle that with me, not act out.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the hope when we get to the other side of this is that there's a way to communicate that allows us to not just understand what's happening in each other's lives all the time, but also handle any difficulties that come up as they come up. Because people screw up and people make mistakes all the time. What I'm hearing is part of the issue here is it kept progressing. It became more and more potential. And then the dishonesty in terms of how it came out. So a lot of it is about the scale and kind of how it went, and it progressed from, I'm assuming, what was just talking / flirting, etc., to more and more serious at work. And then once things came out, that it was this kind of graduated, finding out about things slowly, not even finding out about from him, but finding out from somebody else, etc.
Right.
Darrell, do you mind just kind of going in for a minute and walking through your story, like your
experience?
Talked a little bit about. Yeah, well, Lacy talked a little bit about ex-relationships too, and I want to dig into more things in your life as well. But just kind of whatever it is that feels normal and natural to talk about when it comes to this.
Well, my childhood started off, kind of rocky. So I don't know. I really never had like a father figure to really like guide me and show me, the right way of like treating a woman, I guess, anyway, but I've kind of taught myself, I was raised by women. So, I respect everything about, like, especially like a single mother like Lacy was at the time.
Because you had a single mother.
Exactly. And a single grandmother who, because my grandmother raised me a lot of the time. But I really think that plays a lot of part in like my past actions, and I know that's not really an excuse, but yeah, like I said, me and Lacy we were great. And all of a sudden I went and.
But you talk about like your ex-relationships with girls.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean,
like Jenna, like when he cheated on Jenna, which was his girlfriend at the time of like 2 years with me.
So I guess I have like a history of it, I guess. I cheated on Jenna with Lacy, and me and Lacy ended up getting together and staying together. But when we first started talking, like I said, that was at that stage where we were just kind of like hanging out, having fun, because I had just gotten out of a relationship. She had just gotten out of like going through a divorce, it was new, it was fresh, it was fun. But at the same time, it wasn't something I was like sure about at the time. But yeah.
And then I had kids, and like, you're worried about introducing your children to someone, and I'm like freaking out, like, oh my goodness, my kids have met him now. Like, did I make a mistake? And luckily, like, I didn't, because he stayed in our life. Like, he's been here their whole lives, basically. So, but anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. Like I say, just life's very rocky right now for me. I don't know, especially with like how, like she's like Lacy mentioned, like how work's going and stuff. And it's, it's an average job. It's not bad. Like, pay's not bad. But as far as like just everyday life, it seems like a lot. And I do think that this person that I worked with was just kind of like brightening up my day, So I guess that's why like the actions came into place. Because, I like when it first started happening initially, I was like, I knew it was wrong. I didn't want to do it. I was more so kind of, besides like having my head blown up, I was kind of felt pressures, you know what I mean?
Yeah. When it first started, what was it? Like, how did it first start?
Well, it was just like, see, I have been with my company like 6 years now. And I recently transferred to the weekend shift so Lacy could attend school, like go back to school. And we just got rid of like the night shift on the weekends. So this person who was on that shift, we didn't even work together at the time. They had to displace all of them. So therefore she got put on my shift.
Okay.
And she had said something to me before, like made a comment, like while I was walking out or something, just, I guess like kind of like a flirtatious comment. I don't know. Just like, throwing it out there, hey, I think you're attractive, whatever. And then she just kind of kept doing the same thing whenever she got on the shift. Really never stopped. Just like when she rode by, she would make comments like, hey, you look nice in that or whatever. So, and like I said, I was just kind of brushing it off. And we talked, and I was still at a point where, I was like, I can't, that's not something I can do. Like, I'm not.
She was asking him pretty much.
I'm not comfortable doing that.
So you were brushing it off. What did it feel like? What did it feel like? I mean, you're at a job you don't really love all that much. Look, you guys have a pretty busy life, right? I mean, you got a total of 4 kids in the house. What did it feel like to walk by and get these comments?
It was definitely, it was nice. It made me feel good.
Yeah.
I guess, and I guess that's really why it made me act on it, because like I said, considering what I was dealing with, or what I thought I was dealing with like work and depression and all that, whether it be financially or, wherever the case may be, like it was just, I guess it felt good to have that certain thing going on. So even though I knew it wasn't right.
Sure. So that went on for a little bit. It was the comments and just kind of.
She got his phone number. She asked for his number and was like, I feel like we could talk better if I had your number, and then we could text while we're at work, and I won't call or text you when you're at home with your family or anything. And so then it started going from her basically planning it. She's like, if you just take off half a day, I'll get the hotel room and you can just meet me there, and then no one will ever know. I'll drive. She bought him food. He didn't even buy he didn't even pay for her.
She just had everything ready and set up, here, you want to take off or not, so. Yeah. But yeah, just, with all that going on, she, I would have never been the person to be like, hey, here's just because I haven't done that, since me and Lacy started doing well. So she was she's the one who brought up about texting. Hey, would you be comfortable if we just text in work? I know not to text you outside of work. And I was I don't really know if that's a good idea, phone history, all that. I was terrified, but we started doing it a little bit. I didn't get caught. So I guess I just got comfortable doing it. And one thing led to another.
And then he did take off half a day, and they went into a hotel, and that happened. And then you said you got more comfortable after that because it was just easy.
Yeah, she had everything ready, set up. Hey, I've got this booked. I'll have the food ready, whatever. So.
And then it went from that to this happening 3 times after that. But then she, on one occasion, actually told him she loved him, and she was falling in love with him or whatever. And
which I never said back to her, but I know, given the situation,
she took that
my actions. I guess I can't really say I never gave her the impression that I had feelings. So.
But he says he did not. He had no feelings for her.
Well, yeah, definitely, but definitely never. Told her I love her. Told her that's all I wanted to be. Told her how happy I was at home.
She was like, "You're not happy. You can't be happy."
Yeah.
Just trying to pressure and push it on him that he wasn't happy and just things like that. He's like, "No, we're me and my wife are good."
Yeah, and she knew. I think it bothered her how happy we actually were.
Right.
Because
she would pout.
We were great, and she wasn't happy at home because she was talking to someone before she started talking to me, but
she's married.
Just text. So it was just text, according to her, with this guy before. So like I said, I guess she's been dealing with this for a while. I don't know.
And she's married as well. So for her, this is also an affair outside of her marriage.
Yes.
Yeah, and I've spoken with her and her husband myself. When all this happened, I actually called her. I got her number and called her.
Good.
And at first, everything was good. We went through a nice conversation with her just kind of giving me her story. And then that went from, like we were texting each other after that, and then we kind of got into it, and I let her get to me way too much, and then I just finally decided I needed to stop contacting her because she was, enjoying it. Like,
it's also so toxic, and there's no resolution. Like, she wants what you have. Her energy is toxic. Like, there's nothing beneficial to connect.
Yeah, at least she doesn't want what she has.
Right.
And to some extent. And so
her husband knows that she's having affairs?
Yeah, like.
Or has had this one, I guess.
I talked to him, and it was crazy because he actually, I broke down to him and was, crying to him. I was like, how are you, so okay? And he was just like, I don't know, I'm just going to try to, pray about it and try to work things out with my wife. And I was like, he's like, but don't blame yourself. This is not about you.
Definitely.
And I was like, well, thank you. I needed that positivity.
Wow.
It was weird. I don't know.
Well, I mean, how much easier. I think this is why Sophie and I just started doing the podcast, is because it's the people who are affected and feel like they need to blame themselves that can relate and connect. And that was you and the husband, right? Was you both had kind of gone through the same experience, which was finding out that something was going on behind your back and having your trust broken and all those things that go. So where you ended up was, after a bunch of digging and a bunch of, I'm assuming, many conversations trying to figure out exactly what had happened, gradually getting, and I'm just going to say this now, Darrell, I have nothing against you.
That's fine. Yeah.
The version we currently know as everything that happened, right, is got found out through these
little bits and
conversations and really trying to dig out. And it was that alone, in addition, on top of everything else, but it was the digging out that made the trust, I assume, if I know from my issues with Sophie, harder, because you didn't even get the whole story right off the bat. And now, if I'm right, knowing the other people that I've talked to and the experience that I've had with Sophie, part of you feels right now like, okay, well, I don't know how much I can trust whatever the next version of the story is, because here I've been for 4, 5, 6 years or whatever, trusting that this is building up. Mm-hmm. And obviously there was something I didn't know, and it makes it hard to move past.
So that just kind of makes it 10 times worse. And that's kind of what I told him yesterday, because we even had a conversation yesterday. We've been through the STD kind of, oh my goodness, because the last couple of times there was no protection involved. So, I've been freaked out about that. He's actually still freaked out about that. He feels, and to me, honestly, I feel like his guilty conscience is literally making his body sick.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't feel good, because he's been tested and everything's negative, but he's like, something's wrong, and it came from that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I want you to feel better, but I want you to understand that every time you bring up how sick you feel.
And I understand that, but I also want us to be, healthy at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it triggers what you were just saying, Lacy, is any conversation about it, anytime it comes back up into even your sphere of kind of awareness, it takes you back and it re-triggers you to the lack of trust and all those things, which makes it really hard to even believe that you can move forward, because talking about it makes it hard.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I try not to mention it, really, but
But I do want to be there for you if you're physically feeling sick.
Let me ask.
And mentally, I'm
definitely a lot of guilt and depression, just because of what happened.
Sure.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to be both things to each other. I wanted to know everything in his life. I wanted to know what he was thinking, what he was feeling. That partially helped me heal, but also re-triggered me every time.
Yeah.
So, Adi getting his own help outside of couples therapy was really helpful, because then he or going to meetings or whatever it is he was doing, meeting with a friend that he could truly talk to about this stuff. It actually took the pressure away from me, and then the pressure away from our relationship, so that we could live in the present moment instead of continuing to move through all this pain.
Right. And another thing too is that I was going to say something about, like, I don't mean to sound shallow at all, but this person is like not attractive to me. And he says that she is like, a lot of people have, because people we've talked to that's seen her or whatever, the person at his work or whatever, told me she wasn't. I've seen a photo of her, but I'm like, what happens when the attractive person comes on to you,
Right.
Yeah, like,
but again, it's not about that, right? So it's not, it's once you're
just like, you turn down someone attractive, like if like.
I wanna go into that a little bit, because what does that mean to you that she wasn't attractive? What's the meaning behind that?
It honestly helps me, I guess, feel better, because had she, like, if I felt like she was prettier than me, then that would have probably crushed me like 100 times more.
Okay.
So I guess it's not a bad thing, but it's just like, he's an attractive guy and he gets a lot of offers and always has. And I do too,
Same
like at times. Yeah. But, I guess, I don't know. I just worry about someone more attractive than her. Like, what if that happens next? Like, what are you going to do to prevent that from happening again? And, like, I have my insecurities. I have problems because of my past relationships. I've been cheated on so many times by other people.
Yeah.
And I've been the cheater too. Like, I've been in both situations.
Well, I mean, now that you
just not with him.
Now that you mentioned that, if you don't mind me asking, because you've been through it before, what was the thing that made you cheat before?
My ex-husband, well, he was just a serial cheater. He cheated all the time. That was his like go-to, like just to leave me home with the kids and just go out and do what he wanted to do. And I just stopped asking, I guess, because I lost feelings for him and I just didn't care.
Okay.
And then it just got to where I was like, screw it. Like, why am I not taking up any offers? Like, I don't love this person like that anymore, so
different situation, sounds like.
Well, not just a different situation, but and I think that's where this connects for me a little bit, is you gave up on that relationship. You kind of just said to yourself, this is not the relationship I want to be in anyway. He's doing his thing. I'll go out and do it my own. So it may be partially, yes, cheating, but partially more about the relationship ended before it really ended. And so you both were just out there doing whatever you wanted to do. Because
and we're like on great terms. Like, we're good now. We're friends. Like, we parent, co-parent. They, they have a great relationship.
Okay.
We just weren't right together because of that.
Yeah.
So, like, a lot of people go back and they do cheat after like traumatic instances. Like you said, you had your cheating, Sophie.
She did. She cheated with a bottle. So I don't know how that fits into your less attractive person thing.
It helps make you feel a lot better. That's our suggestion. That's our only suggestion today. Your homework is.
No, I told him.
Oh yeah, he'll just love that.
And like younger than him, so like just all the things.
I'm like, really, what's the key with that? Like, I'm never gonna look at that guy. What is that? Like,
the guy she had actually started talking to. When we got bodybuilding, this Italian guy, like Italian stallion.
Yeah.
It was pretty rough.
I think the guy I got cheated on was like works out 4 hours a day. Like, that's not happening. I love you, babe, but it's not happening. So, okay, cool. I mean, first of all, I feel like we got a really good overview of what's happening to you guys, and thank you again for being willing to share that. Because everybody goes through their own version of the story, but I can guarantee that a lot of people listening right now to connect the pieces of it, and that matters, because concepts end up maybe being the same across different couples, but we connect to the stories, and so guarantee there are people listening right now where they were either office affairs or age differences between the couple, attractiveness, like all these things you guys hit on, I think will really resonate with a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so I want to maybe kind of get started with some of not just the solutions, but already the path that I'm seeing to a start of working on it. And that is the first thing you mentioned, what was so different in your past. one of the things that I think is important to almost kind of set the ground rules for yourself right now as a couple is, Lacy, you've already been in a relationship where cheating just caused more distrust, and it kind of snowballed until both people just kind of said, screw it. I'm not really in this. And one of the differences is that whatever we put in place, whatever work we do moving forward from this point on, has to be with both of you kind of just committing that you're all in to whatever it is that we uncover that we've got to work on.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll do it.
Because I'm ready. Like, whatever she needs, if like she'll randomly, come up and just like bring up something from like the incident that happened, just like pull a piece out or ask, did this certain thing happen? How did this happen? And I know I try to answer it like as honestly as possible, because she says that's helping her with her feelings. It's like whatever it takes,
Totally. And along with it, because you said that whatever she needs, and that's great, and that's really wonderful. Inevitably, there'll be things you got to work on, right? Yeah, sure. Because from my experience, at least, of honestly being a guy in the U.S., and it's kind of interesting right now. It's maybe being a guy in the world. I don't know, but there's almost like a battle between these 2 points of view that I'm going to present right now, and I think we stand pretty firmly on one side of it. But I want to find out a little bit from you what this experience was like for you. And you were raised by your mom and your grandmother, so there were nuances to it that were not like mine and not like some other people that I've talked to. But men primarily don't talk about feelings too much. That's one thing. And B, find out about sex and what sex is supposed to look like and what your ideal future is supposed to be like around intimacy and sexuality from media and from porn. Like, yeah, that's a primary way that you find out about, like, okay, what are my relationships supposed to look like, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And I'd like to, before I even mention what I've seen in many, many men up to this point, I'd love to talk a little bit about what was your experience when it came to that. So in your house, what was it like talking about feelings? Did you guys do it? Was that present for you? How did you find out about sex? What were your early experiences with porn, all that kind of stuff?
Like as like a teenager, like
whenever that happened.
When you were growing up, what was it like when your feelings came up, or when your mom or your grandma were handling situations? Did they bring up your feelings? Was it something that you had like a vocabulary to like actually express how you felt, or was it pushed down, or what was your
sexual drive, or
not even just feelings? First of all, it's a 2-part question. So how did you grow up surrounding feeling? What was that like? Do you remember, like, did you have a vocabulary around your feelings?
I was a pretty emotional kid, I think. So, if I
there was a lot of like inappropriate stuff as a child that he was like exposed to. Like, a lot of his mom was really young when she had him,
like 15.
Yeah, and so she had like a lot of parties at home, and he would like kind of walk in and see
people doing it in the bathtub,
like just stuff that he's told me that I'm like, that's not okay. Like, that's not the way that I was ever brought up as a child. And so anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Like I say, I was a fairly emotional kid, and I stayed with my grandmother. So, if I felt like, I feel like if I felt like I needed to talk about something, I could talk to her like before I could talk to my mom about it. So okay. I don't feel like I kept things bottled up too much.
Cool. Here's a really important fact, though, and I'm glad we're getting this stuff out. You were at your grandma's a lot because your mom wasn't really set up to be able to take care of you. She was too young. She was, and again, you'll learn from working with us pretty quickly. This isn't about blame. It's just the reality of what was.
Yeah.
Your mom was young. She kind of wanted to still be a young kid and party and hang out and have a good time. And so your grandma stepped in to make sure you had an appropriate environment to grow up in.
Well, my grandmother and my uncle, initially, they did it first. So, and then we just moved kind of on with my grandmother, so.
Okay. And I'm also hearing
inconsistencies. And childhood.
And I'm also hearing that either as that was happening or before it happened, maybe during, you as a young kid got to see or be around things that, you know, most 2, 3, 5-year-olds don't live around and don't see.
No.
And here's the reason why I think it's important. You know, Lacy, you mentioned earlier that you were a player, and we use these words a lot. I mean, that's a big thing for me, is we use these terms a lot.
Yeah.
When we say somebody's a player, what do we mean? We mean they're trying to hook up with a lot of people. They have a few different people that they're involved with, and they're not really too serious. It's hard for them to get serious. And it's a judgment. There's definitely a judgment on it to some extent. I mean, you know, unless you're 50 Cent or something, there's judgment on it. And part of the judgment, to me, comes from this notion that it's somehow like built into you, Darrell. Like you were born to be this guy. And part of why I want to dig into a little bit is to understand how it got to that place. So you were born into an environment where men weren't around all that much, or at least not responsible men.
Not good men for you. Yeah.
And like you talked about that from the beginning, a role model. But also, you know, the barrier of what is appropriate and inappropriate kind of behavior around you was really stretched. I mean,
yeah, I didn't really know, you know, so
exactly, you didn't know.
Guys hooking up with women, and you know, I was a guy. You know, once I started getting those feelings, you know, I was like, okay, I want to try this out. So,
yeah, this is what we do. I mean, but it's not even just I want to try it out. It's like, this is life. This is how it's done.
Yeah.
Right?
That's the example you were shown.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good. I mean, so that's really good to know. And the reason I'm going to say that is there are going to be, I can already tell just from that part of the discussion, there are going to be parts to this where it's going to be really involved in you trying to create a model, almost like finding a new model of what kind of man you want to be.
Exactly.
And then figuring out how to do that. Because bottom line is right now you have a sense of it, but you don't really know how to get there because you didn't have any, there was nobody that showed you the way.
Right.
Yeah, no structure. Right.
Yeah, there's no, I mean, like even, you know, you work in a warehouse. When you got that job, there was a training. Somebody showed you how to do what you were supposed to do. Because if there wasn't a training, you'd walk around the warehouse like, hey, I'm supposed to get this box. Where is it? And it would take you 7 times as long to do it, right? I think we can use a similar kind of model to this, and you seem really open to it, which is awesome, because I feel like a lot of guys are really tied into the kind of man they became.
Or resistant to change.
Yeah, because it's hard, right? I mean, a lot of this will be about, well, every time, not every time, but a lot of times you will be taking actions that will feel like they kind of go against the nature of how you thought guys are supposed to be.
Yeah.
So I know I can already tell what will be important from this, and I'll probably want you to do this exercise on your own, is actually to develop a model. And I like finding role models for this. So whether it's a TV character or a book character or a movie person, something where you can say to yourself, okay, this is the kind of guy I want to be. And
the kind of dad I want to be, the kind of husband, the kind of worker, the kind of everything.
Yeah. And then we can start defining, okay, if that's our goal, how do we get there? Where are we right now? And what is it that's going to take us to be at that level? Because right now, and I'm speaking from personal experience as well as the many people that you worked with, I didn't know. Like, I knew what I'd done was wrong. I knew that it hurt my wife. And I knew that I don't want to hurt my wife that way again. But I also came from a world where, like in the porn I watched and in the movies that I saw and the TV series that I watched, guys were always ogling and going after women that they weren't with. Threesomes and orgies were just kind of like the norm. And so that's where I came from. And so even though I realized I didn't want that for my wife anymore, I didn't want to hurt her, I didn't even know between us what that was going to look like. So it took a minute to just develop that. So I think, first of all, I already have kind of like the first exercise and the first piece that you're going to want to do after this. And that is take a piece of paper. Lacy, you're not part of this for now. But like, just get a piece of paper for yourself and open it up. Movies, TV, whatever it is, start. If you have actual names of characters, it would be good because it will give you a real visual thing to stick to. Mm-hmm. And if not, like Sophie said, what kind of father do I want to be?
Characteristics.
And then what does that mean? I want to, you know, I don't want to put the words in your mouth because you got to come up with this.
Yes.
But we're going to create a goal of how do we want to be, and then we're going to start learning from other people's examples, but also from resources. I mean, we'll be one of those resources, but also from other resources. How do I become that? And you'll be able to do it. You'll just be able to train yourself to be different. It takes a minute. This is not quick. But it gives you a positive goal to work toward, because what's happened a lot of times, and I'm sure it's already happened to you right now, Darrell, is we start looking at all the negative stuff about us.
Mm-hmm.
We start saying, I'm an asshole, or I'm not emotional enough, or whatever, I'm a liar.
Or even looking at the future as like it being dull, or, projecting what you think is going to happen or not happen in a relationship. Like doomsday, like it's the worst case, like our trust will never be back. It'll never be the way it was, like the worst case scenario. And that's what you kind of play in your head. And then it builds off that. And then it's hard to get out of that like negative world.
Yeah.
And I'm definitely in that world.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's spiraling. It's easy to spiral, and it's hard to get out once you start spiraling.
And so once just developing this positive endpoint that we're trying to work towards gives you it's not necessarily just about the good feeling, but it gives you something good to work towards, rather than always looking at all the negative stuff. Yeah. So there will still be triggers, and there will still be negative things as you're working on this. It doesn't. That.
Well, I think the most important thing right now is just acknowledging that you both, from what I'm taking in, you both are ready to work, and you both want to be together. You choose each other, and that's really important. Like that's a very important part to this. I think sometimes like the person who was cheated on might not know and might be like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know. And I was like that for a while. We had I was pregnant with Kai when I found out all the things I found out, and I felt trapped. And to me, I was like, if I weren't with you, I'd be fucking gone. But instead I also used that kind of as like a crutch, and like then I was the victim, and it just was all fucked up. And I think because you guys are at a point right now where it's been given a little bit of space, you're 5-6 months past discovery, even though it trickled out, you've given it a little bit of time to breathe. You're sitting here talking to us right now, and you aren't killing each other, which is huge. Like we definitely had sessions where we were
not right now. She's
yeah.
I get it. Yeah, it's good.
But I think
I lost it when I found out. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. Understandably.
Yeah, and by the way, rightfully so and understandably, right?
Yeah. I don't blame her. I said,
yeah, and it's betrayal. That's the thing. Yeah, it's not, to me, I also say this now, but it feels much more about the betrayal and the lies than it is about the act itself. Of course, the act itself is painful as well, but it feels a little bit more stingy. The lies, the deceit.
Yeah.
The trust broken.
Betrayed by someone that I consider to be my best friend for this whole time.
Cool. So that's just one thing for you, Darrell, because I can already tell you want to change the interaction. You want it to be better. Yeah. Like when we started, you mentioned, you don't really necessarily know what to do. So what you're doing is everything Lacy needs, which is great, but that's
one part.
It's one part, and what it means you're kind of doing all the time is you're playing catch up,
like fixing.
Because exactly. By the time Lacy reacts,
like putting a band-aid on it.
Kind of like. So what you end up with is a lot of band-aids, right? Because she's going to get cut up, and she's going to get upset a lot, because every time this comes up, that's going to happen. So that's important. Taking care of what she needs in the moment is really important, and we'll talk about that a little bit, because I think maybe setting some guidelines will be important for the foreseeable future. I try to not work past what we can imagine now, and we'll set, by the time we're done here today, I think the next and probably last thing we'll get to do today, though, will be to understand what boundaries and safety, rules and safety guidelines will feel good for you all to move forward. So while Darrell, you're doing the work, and we'll set up some communication help for you too as well. Good. You're safe. Things might get blown up every once in a while, but there's safety because you know that all these other things are in play. And I think that can be really important.
That's huge. That helps us a lot.
Yeah. Because by the time Lacy, by the time you react in the way that Darrell sees it, my guess is you've already had maybe just minutes, but normally hours or a few days of stuff percolating in your head before it got bad enough where you let him know.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like constant. I mean, I feel like it's every other thought.
It is.
Almost.
Okay.
Are you meditating at all?
Do I?
Do you meditate at all?
I was doing yoga for a little while. But I actually got on Adie's live the other day and was like just kind of looking about meditation and how anxiety like kind of takes over when you're trying to. So that's kind of where I'm trying to figure out how I need to do that, you know.
Cool. So here's a tip for that. That works really well. So she was talking about, I did a Facebook Live where I was talking about a lot of people, or it was Instagram Live, I think, but a lot of people take on meditation because it's supposed to be relaxing. That's the idea. And then they go to close their eyes and try to breathe, and they don't get relaxed at all. They get more anxious because they're sitting there going, I should be relaxing and breathing deeply, and then all their thoughts come flooding in. And they feel like, I mean, the most typical things is, I can't do this, I'm not good at this. And then what comes on top of that is this solution that everybody keeps telling me is the thing that's going to work for me has just failed for me, which means I'm hopeless. So it actually makes everything worse. So I want to reach.
And I'm an overthinker anyway. So.
Okay. Well, here's a little shift in what meditation does. Meditation is not about quieting your mind. Meditation is about making you aware of what's happening in your mind. Building that awareness then allows you to understand what you need to do when you stop meditating to address whatever's going on to some extent. And so what I think would actually be really good, and maybe this is an exercise that you guys can do together to some extent, because I think right now what's coming for me, I don't know, Sophie, you can tell me if you're getting the same sense, but one of the things that I'm sensing right now is right now the important thing will be to open a line of communication between you two so that you don't only talk about this, especially Lacy, it's happening every other thought, but you're not only talking about this when it's bad, but rather you have a channel that allows you to talk about it even when it's moderately okay and when it's barely present.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Because I think what tends to happen to a lot of people is you only talk about it when it's blowing up. So it seems like it's always blowing up. Because if it's not terrible, you don't talk about it. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah, it does. Definitely.
So there's some really simple meditation practices, but I think the easiest one that I've done with people are just breathing meditations. Did you agree?
Or I would say even guided meditation. I would try a couple different ones, like maybe 1 week, try it for 7 days, 20 minutes max. I would do 10 to 20 minutes.
There's a podcast we used to like a lot that's called Meditation Oasis. We used to use it a lot.
But there's so many. There's One Giant Mind. I can send you a list, but
I read A Return to Love actually in like 2 days.
Oh, great. So you should read that too.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's your first book homework. It's a really beautiful.
She's an amazing person.
A Return to Love is kind of along the lines of the homework that he gave you.
Okay.
So it's, again, like kind of retraining your brain just to see love in a different way.
Cool.
It's Marianne Williamson.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we'll put
meditation.
We'll put this in the show notes. A couple different meditation apps we like. You both can benefit from meditation. It, especially if you're making yourself sick, you're probably making yourself sick from your thoughts.
Yeah.
That's where that poison starts and that cycle starts. So you both could do it together, or you could do it apart, or both.
Yep.
But it'll give you some freedom.
But here's what I want you here's what I want you to do. So figure out what works for you. I like that idea of just trying a few different ones. The key, even when it's guided, unless you're a magician, Tibetan monks hiding in North Carolina, what will end up happening for you is the guided meditation will happen and you'll follow it for a few moments and it'll feel really nice and relaxing, and then your brain will go. And you will be in some other thought. And then you'll discover that thought happened, and you'll kind of get upset at yourself a little bit that you're not meditating. and you'll be able to go back to the meditation, and you'll do that over and over, which is totally fine. That's exactly what's supposed to happen.
That is what happens even to
Everybody.
meditation teachers.
Everybody.
We all wander.
Your mind goes in and out of the. So Sophie's right. If you don't do a guided meditation, like there's breathing meditations I do with clients where literally all I tell them to is visualize their breathing and count them. That's it. So it's super simple. I do 5 minutes with most of my clients. You breathe in, you breathe out, and you count 1 for each cycle. Most people can't get to 8 because before you get to 8, you've lost you're thinking about something else. And all I tell you is just when you realize that, say to yourself, oh, I'm thinking about, and you talk to yourself inside and say, oh, I'm thinking about the cheating, or I'm thinking about the warehouse, I'm seeing the hotel, whatever that is. Put that down, go back to counting. Now, here's what I think is going to be really important for you two in this situation. After you do it, I want you guys to talk about the thoughts that came up. I want you to talk about all those things that interrupted. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
They could be things that came up in your day. It could be a book you read, a TV movie you watched or something, or it could be about this episode. But I want it to be a regular thing. So if you do this once a day, it'll open up a line of communication that is consistent, that doesn't have to do always and forever with when things are bad, but rather you won't be, right now, my guess again from all the people we've worked with, right now you're stuck in this place where a little bit you talk about what has to get done and, oh, did you do this thing or did you do that? Those things are fine. You can talk about those okay. Not a lot of talking about emotions unless, Lacy, you're in a bad place and you really need to talk about what's going on.
Okay.
This will open up that communication channel a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think honestly, for me, for homework, that's probably enough for today because I don't want to make it too much a bombardment. If you can do this, if you can for 1 week meditate every day together, even honestly, guys, 5 minutes, 3 minutes would be amazing. 5 minutes would be incredible.
Do 3 minutes, and then I want you to just have a piece of paper in front of each of you. Right after the 3 minutes, go straight to the paper and just write down all the thoughts that came up. Then when you have the time, go through what those, maybe it's right then, maybe it's at lunch, but then go through it together, and that will help you connect. Because not every single thought is going to be this bad stuff.
Oh, no.
You're going to share other things that come up, and then your partner is going to understand you better. And that's the most beautiful part about all of this, is you're going to be closer because of these practices.
Yeah, there's some listening techniques I want to cover, but I don't think we'll get to them today because I need to really rehearse them, and I want to give us another time to do it.
But it's really nice and refreshing to, first of all, hear other things that's going on for your partner. You're going to be hearing things about her that you haven't heard in a long time because she's so focused on this, and you are too.
Yeah.
But I can only speak from like the experience that I had, which is probably similar to hers.
Yeah.
It's really hard to get your mind off of that, and that's where the focus always goes because it's the thing that needs to be put out. It's like the biggest fire right now. But when you can start to just talk about things going on in your heart and in your mind, other than that, also about that, but then you can hear the thought process of your person and your partner, and it's refreshing, and you'll become closer because of it, even in little tiny ways.
So, okay, I want to pause for a second. How does that feel? We made 3 suggestions. So, Darrell, you got some modeling to do, and you got a book to read. You don't have to finish it this week, but just
meditation.
And then the meditation thing. How does this feel to you guys just right now?
Good. I mean, I've literally been like, what do I do every day?
It's so overwhelming.
It's nice to have it. Yeah.
And I'm kind of in the same place. I don't really know what steps to take, but I'm, willing to do what it takes. So that definitely helps, like give me like a structured, like
straightforward
homework. Yeah.
What's the first thing, just emotionally, gut reaction that comes up as you're thinking about Darrell, about doing this modeling and the reading, and both of you about the meditation? Any stuff that's coming up for you right now?
For me?
Yeah.
Excitement, just
kind of relief.
Yeah, like maybe this.
It's nice to know that there's answers like that. Like there is something that you can do. This is what you can do. Like, because we've literally just been all over the place.
Okay, cool. I want to ask, and by the way, you guys can be 100% honest. We're totally okay as we do this because this sounds stupid.
Yeah.
Because look, you guys came to us saying, hey, our marriage is falling apart. We need help. And we're asking you to sit down for 5 minutes and breathe, like talk to each other. So I just want to make sure that it sits and resonates appropriately.
Just know, maybe don't say it's stupid to me. No, I'm just kidding.
He's okay with it.
Maybe just to be honest about, if something doesn't sit right, like, I just actually like, that doesn't feel right because of X, Y, and Z. Like, just know that you can say that.
Absolutely.
Right.
Because there's so many things that we can give you for homework, and there's so many things like exercises that have worked for us but might not work for you, or something that worked for a friend but didn't work for us. There's so many things. So just know, like, total honesty.
Awesome.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I'm definitely being honest. I think it will be helpful.
Oh, yeah.
We know that we need to do therapy.
Yeah.
Financially, like, we're kind of, so that's like a damper on the.
So when we were going through this stuff, our financial situation was not good, and we found a place. I'm assuming there's places near you, definitely near Asheville.
Not a ton of resources in this area, but there's definitely places probably an hour away.
Yeah, so we found a place that was on a sliding scale.
They did it based on how much money you made. All we could afford was $25 an hour.
It was $25 an hour based on our income, and we saw a licensed therapist for an hour.
Normally lasts an hour.
Yeah, usually it's an hour, but you can sometimes request time and a half or 2 hour sessions. We did a lot of those. So we paid $50 for 2 hours, and just know that there are possibilities, and we can do some research too from our end.
Yeah, that'd be great.
But I mean, I would think it'd be crazy if there wasn't something in Asheville. Like,
right.
Gotta be something.
Sure in Asheville.
And then you guys can take a day trip together, and like make it a date.
Yeah. That was useful.
Yeah, we have.
Cool.
We need as many date nights as possible at this point.
Yeah, I mean,
and just time. And I don't know if you've had date nights since then, but I know that date nights weren't always pretty for us when it first, I'd get triggered, like, why are you looking at that waitress like that? Like, you just start like spiraling. But just know that, like, spending time out in the world together is healing and discussing, like, learning how to talk to each other again, and just as it comes up, saying it. We're all about radical honesty and transparency. So, like, it's a practice, right? You're gonna have to retrain your mind of what it feels like and looks like to be a man. You're both gonna have to learn how to speak to each other in a way that might be a little uncomfortable because you're so honest. Like, she just made me feel uncomfortable. It actually had nothing to do with you, and now I'm blaming you. Or there's going to be just a new way of discussing things, and we'll practice that with you.
Yeah.
I was pulling this one.
I think, if it's okay, I think I'd like to put a step before the one Sophie just mentioned, because Sophie's already, I feel like, is seeing this a little bit from a more advanced standpoint because we've been in this place for a few years.
Yeah.
I think what I like to go back is to kind of something like the guidelines that you and I had in place, Sophie, when we started.
Boundaries.
And so what I'd love for you to find out, let's talk about it a little bit here, and then it's okay for you guys after this to sit down and come up with additional boundaries that feel okay.
Sure.
What safeguards have you guys already put in place in the last 4 to 5 months? You mentioned Dale, she can look at your phone whenever she wants to.
Location. We've shared location on like Snapchat and
on text message.
Text, yes. Yeah, so.
Okay, so you have location on each other's phones.
She's logged into my Facebook and has access to what,
Cool. So that's kind of like again, great initial tools, but that's more like the you spying on him, Lacy kind of stuff.
Yeah. The spiraling.
That way.
I don't mind. I don't look,
What's that? Sorry.
I don't mind, I get it,
No, trust me, I get it. I mean, I was willing to give my left leg when this thing started to make her feel better. But what I'm wondering is, so that is, Lacy, that is you knowing what he's up to.
Yeah.
Have you guys put any rules on what you guys are okay with you being up to?
Not really. I mean, we did talk about it. We actually talked about this yesterday because I'm going to feed her.
Yeah, go for it.
I have listened to your podcast, your other podcast about the, like, healing from the trauma.
Yeah.
And the boundaries that you set, you know, like, and that I mentioned it to him, and I was like, all I did was mention it to you. We didn't like set it in stone.
Yeah.
But I remember you being like, he wasn't allowed to like talk to other women without you there and stuff like that. And that's probably something that would make me feel safe, but we haven't like set
we went pretty extreme, and I want to just say that on the front end for you guys and for the people listening inside, but it was kind of we went pretty extreme, but it was also based on the environment I was in. Almost all my friends were girls. I had
this was the third time also.
It was like the third discovery, and I had actually hooked up with one of my friends at the time. So there were reasons why we went that hard. Right now, I mean, you're still at work.
Yeah.
She still works there?
She quit work.
Oh no, yeah, she doesn't anymore.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah.
That makes some of this a lot easier.
Oh yeah.
Do you guys have any rules at all about like when you talk to women, when you interact with women? Do you guys, I mean, I don't know what your life looks like. So do you go hang out with your boys?
Actually, even before this incident, we didn't like go out without each other just because we kind of chose not to. Like if we had an opportunity to go out, we wanted to go together.
Yeah.
And like, that's just kind of where we just wanted to be together to go places. But now, you know, especially that's like going out for drinks with friends or going out, you know, period. That's something that we never really did. And, you know, actually a lot of our friends kind of thought it probably wasn't healthy. But that's just kind of what, maybe there was some insecurity from me from the past, and that made me feel safe and made me feel okay that we just went places together. And I wanted to go like with him, like
I didn't mind.
Yeah.
I enjoy.
But now, especially, well, you know, that's obviously going to be a rule. Like, I don't want to go out without each other right now.
Okay, so I'm hearing that's one. Maybe it was a soft rule, but now we're making it kind of more an accepted rule for now. I always like to say, I never know how long these rules last. Sometimes they need to last 5 years, and sometimes they last 6 months, and the person goes, cool, we're good with that one. I don't need that one again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we have some things that are still in place from 8 years ago, and we have some things that I'm like, why would we ever? I don't care about that.
Yeah, and it's funny, actually. Sometimes I will not do something, or I will do something because of a rule that was there 6 years ago, and she goes, why are you doing that? I go, because we agree that that's the thing. She goes, yeah, I don't need that shit anymore. We're done. You're good. Thank you.
You guys are in a great place. Yeah.
Yeah, but
for the most part,
yeah, and again,
it changes. It's like
it's still always work. I mean, we're good. We're in a good place around cheating. Like,
yeah.
But it's, you know, marriage is marriage. Like, there's stuff that works out forever. Right. I don't think it's easier when you're dating. I hear my friends who are dating, and it's a fucking nightmare. Like, I thank God I'm not dating. You know, it's a nightmare. Yeah. But okay, so that's one thing. Do you have? I'm going to bring stuff up just based on what I know. If either of you has thoughts as we're talking, let me know. Are there female coworkers right now that you work with on a pretty regular basis?
Yes, there's approximately 1,000, right at 1,000 people that work there. So you know, I see I see men, women all the time. You know, it's
cool. I'm gonna ask the question. I hope it's not triggering. I know I don't want to be triggering. So my question, and this is when Sophie and I talk about radical transparency, this is going to be an example of what I mean by that. So this happened with this woman. Has there been any flirting with any other woman out of all the women that work? Like literally even if just a girl said something once, has there been any of that with anybody?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, cool. Part of what I think would be really useful is, and this is, I think, the thing that none of us knew on the front end, but would have saved us a lot of trouble if we would have known it early on. What I think would be really good is if moving forward, you don't have to go back and start like creating a list of every girl who's ever like said something. But if moving forward, anytime that any interaction like that happens, not a warehouse interaction where, hey, Darrell, can you get me the box off A14? Not that doesn't matter. Yeah. Lacy, I'm assuming you don't want to know that. But anytime there's an interaction that has even a tinge of flirtation in it, I think it would be amazing. Would be if in the moment, Darrell, you just shoot her a text. Like, not even think about it, but just letting her know, hey, nothing happened. Like, Because right now,
Yeah.
what seems like, and Lacy kind of said this explicitly, there's this fear of what happens if this happens again, right? What happens if somebody flirts with him again?
Right.
The reality is life happens and people say things.
Yeah.
As part of the communication that I was talking about opening before, I think what might be really cool here is if Darrell, you can just say, hey, I just want to let you know, some girl just complimented my hair, whatever it is, whatever feels right to you, Darrell, there's going to be a level of trust here.
Yeah.
And this is how we rebuild trust, right? Is Lacy
Feel
starts,
safety. It makes me feel safe.
yeah, Lacy starts
Yeah.
hearing, oh, he has these interactions and he's sharing them all with me. And one of the things that I've noticed happens to a lot of the other men that I work with, it takes the charge out of it in a split second. Because part of, and I asked you how does that made you feel in the beginning, it makes you feel good that somebody complimented you, right?
Yeah.
But if I'm right, that good feeling was also always overloaded with a little bit of shame and guilt.
Definitely. Yeah.
But if Lacy knows about it, like if you text Lacy and says, hey, this girl just told me that she really likes my outfit, and she
I have nothing to feel guilty about.
then that's it. There's no guilt trip.
Yeah.
You can literally honestly say to that girl, cool, thanks a lot. And that's it. That's where it ends. Because you don't go home and fantasize weird stuff because this thing happened at work that Lacy doesn't know about. Yeah. And I think what ends up happening, this is what I was saying before when we first started this, we don't see the opportunities to cut things off early because we're too caught up in our own head. Like, I don't want to tell Lacy about this. Oh, it kind of feels nice. Well, maybe if I tell Lacy, then she won't be able to say that to me again in the future. Whatever the thing is, right? We kind of get caught up in our own head. And I think this is one of your opportunities between this and your opportunity to check in with each other on a regular basis about the thoughts that are coming up for you. There will be more ongoing, just day-to-day communication about what happens to you than you've had in a long time.
Sounds good.
That would make me better.
I know it will. So.
Okay.
Definitely willing, man. You know, like I said, whatever it takes.
And it helps to have someone else tell him that too. You know, like someone that knows.
Exactly. Well, yeah, you don't want to
told him that, you know.
Well, from you, it sounds like controlling and insecure and clingy and all those things. Which,
like I tell her at this point, like, there's really no boundaries, you know. I mean, whatever you think's fair game is fair game. You know, I did what I did, whatever you need, you know what I mean?
So, I mean, that's a great frame of mind to be in. I think I can share that now. It's not something that we did this because of when it started. And it's not always, I'm not suggesting that this happens always, but you actually never know the side effects of this kind of stuff. Like, initially, it creates discomfort because Lacy, you don't really want to hear that somebody was attractive, or you don't really want to hear that something weird happened, right? It makes you feel strange. But if it actually makes you feel good, Darrell, to get a compliment like that, sometimes it can make your connection stronger because you say something like, hey, the girl complimented me here in this way. And Lacy goes, yeah, you do look hot in that jacket or whatever. And it can actually build up your relationship instead of pulling you farther apart.
For sure. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
That's nice.
Any other things, Lacy, that you've thought of or that you've thought of, Darrell, that are kind of, you felt like things that you wanted to put in place but you didn't really know how to talk about?
I'm sure.
I mean, like, I have talked to him about that exact situation, and like he's told me, it was the other day, I think he was like, yeah, the last time we were at the beach, I mean, we were having a conversation with a friend just about the cheating and all that, and she was kind of giving us her, like, you know, advice, and she's like, yeah, at least you're man enough to like admit everything and you guys want to work it out, because she had some worse situations happen to her.
Yep.
We just started talking about that, and I don't know how we got on the topic of it, but he was just like, well, yeah, I mean, there's people that come on to me all the time, but I've never acted on it. And I guess to try to, like, you know, address the situation with me saying, well, what happens when it's someone more attractive? And he's like, well, I mean, there's people more attractive that have tried. And I'm like, well, when? You know, and I get like,
exactly. And
then he's like, well, at the beach, you know, in the elevator, this girl, like, and I'm like, why did you tell me that? And I guess because I would have freaked, and I would have been like trying to be like, where's she at? You know, like, But I'm
at
in
the
a
same
place.
time, that was kind of going on like when me and the girl from work was like had our thing going on. So it was like, you know,
Right.
I was like in this secretive mode, I guess. So
So someone had like, complimented him on the elevator, and I
Yeah.
mean, it didn't go past anything else, right?
no,
Like,
definitely. I was with
So-
Rowan at the time. So.
yeah.
I had a friend of
But if
mine.
you had told me, it would have made me feel safer.
Yeah.
Just in general,
Sooner,
even
I guess, yeah.
before finding out the cheating, it would have made me feel safer.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think this whole thing is gonna because you don't actually know, because then you were really insecure and you still are, but back then you think like, oh, I would have appreciated that and it would have made me feel X, Y, and Z. But I think the beauty in this is that these practices are actually going to help you feel more secure and more close to him. And eventually, just a little nugget of hope, because I can't help it, where you have so much trust that some of these insecurities that you used to have that aren't even related to this are going to dissipate, are going to go away. And that's the beauty, is that I had a lot of things from my old relationship, which was also abusive, mostly emotionally and psychologically. I had a lot of crazy in me from that I brought into this, not even knowing it. And a lot of inner dialogue things that I didn't necessarily ever share with him because I think I was crazy, or I thought he would think I was crazy. And it affected us. There's no way that your thoughts can't affect your actions. There's no way that your thoughts can't affect your relationships in your life. So it's really nice to know that these practices are actually going to help you in more ways than even has to do with this specific thing, the cheating.
Yeah. Totally.
Awesome.
Cool. So I think this is a good place to pause our first one.
Yeah.
An hour and 15 is a little while to go.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to the Ignited podcast. We were so happy to have you along for this ride. Please go and subscribe to this. Leave us a review. We love hearing from you. And if you want more, don't forget to go to ignited.com, where all the podcast episodes are available with show notes and so many of the little details and links from each one of these interviews. And you can look at all the future events that we have going on, all the things that make Ignited so special, even beyond this recording. Again, thank you so much for joining us. We will see you next week.